Chapter 1. The Lessons of Summer. 1 July 1992, Harry Potter stared at the telephone on his work desk with a vague distrust. Although technically Muggle-raised, his time spent with the Dursleys had left him ill-equipped to deal with many aspects of Muggle existence. In this instance, while he, unlike most purebloods, knew what a telephone was, he had never actually used one in his entire life, and he was now oddly nervous as a result. However, his nervousness was outweighed by his frustration over the fact that not one of his friends had owled him any letters so far, not even to respond to those he'd sent out. It was annoying. Finally, the boy took a deep breath and dialed the number in front of him, and after a few rings, a female voice answered. Granger Residence. Good afternoon, Mrs. Granger. My name is Harry Potter, and I'm a schoolmate of Hermione. By any chance is she available? Harry Potter. You were the young man at the station, weren't you? For a second, Harry thought the woman's voice seemed to register disapproval. Then he shook his head. He was just imagining things.
Just a moment,
she said. Harry could hear Hermione's mother move away from the phone and then call out to her daughter. Seconds later, there was the sound of running feet and then a squeal that almost made Harry drop the receiver.
Harry Potter, where have you been? We've all been worried sick about you.
Harry was surprised by the unexpected outburst. You have, and whose? Wait.
Neville, Blaise and myself. Oh, and Theo, though I only hear from him second-hand through Blaise. Apparently he's very paranoid about sending owls to and from Malfoy Manor. Understandable, I suppose. But anyway, we've all been sending you owl posts for 2 weeks now and haven't heard anything from you. Blaise has been threatening to send Gunter to kick in the Dursleys' door and rescue you.
She paused.
You didn't actually need rescuing, did you? I'll never hear the end of it if you did, and I talked Blaise out of saving you in some dramatic fashion.
Harry laughed.
No, I haven't needed saving. It's just been boring and lonely here. It's rather odd though, because I've been sending owls out to you lot as well and never heard back from anyone. Posts to and from my solicitors get through fine, but nothing from any fellow students I've written to. Dumbledore was supposed to have put up some wards here when I was first dropped off. Maybe he included a post-owl ward or some such nonsense. Anyway, I'll have Hestia and Artie look into it now that I know that it's an actual thing, and not everyone just ignoring me.
He laughed at that.
In the meantime, could you owl Blaise and Neville and let them know I'm okay, and it's just an issue with owl delivery?
Of course.
Hermione replied.
Though Neville is out of country at the moment. He and Lady Augusta are in the Amazonian jungle on an expedition to find some rare plant specimens. They won't be back until the 15th, and I doubt an owl could find him before then. Anyway, other than lack of communication, how has your summer been? Not bad. I've finished my homework. I have my own TV for the first time in my life, but there never seems to be anything good on, so I don't know that I missed much. I don't have to cook for anyone but myself, although I'm getting a bit tired of cold sandwiches and ramen noodles cooked in a microwave. On the bright side, I start tutoring tomorrow. I'm a bit excited about that. Tutoring, but we can't use our wands during the summer, can we?
Hermione asked.
Well, as is usually the case, there are loopholes put in place for the benefit of the rich and well-connected that are big enough to drive a lorry through them. There's a license you can apply for from the ministry that lets you use your wand over the summer for limited times, provided you're supervised by an adult who gets ministry approval. My solicitors got it set up for me. They don't mention it at Hogwarts because it's bloody expensive, and I guess they don't want the less wealthy parents to complain about the inherent unfairness of it all. I wrote you all about it in one of those owl posts that disappeared into the netherworld or whatever. How expensive are we talking, Harry? And don't say bloody. It's impolite. I've missed you, Hermione. Anyway, all told, I'm dropping nearly 2,000 galleons on tutoring this summer. I reckon that's close to £10,000. Not all school-related stuff, though. I'm also learning about politics, etiquette, estate planning, and also flying lessons at some point. £10,000. Eep. Well, if it's all the same, I think I'll stick to self-study for now. If I can't keep up with you, not to mention all the purebloods like Malfoy who are probably getting tutoring as well, I'll talk to my parents for next summer. Besides, we've already made plans to go to France for 3 weeks, so I probably wouldn't have time anyway. So, what's your tutor like? No idea, I haven't actually met her yet. She's a Hufflepuff who graduated near the top of her class. She's got a gap year before she starts at the Aura Academy and wants to make a little spending money. Her name is Tonks.
Justy Tonks.
Just Tonks, according to Artie. She has a first name, but she doesn't like it, so she just uses her surname for everything. Not even a miss in front of it. So Tonks then, like Madonna or Cher. Nope, sorry, no idea who either of them are. Raised in a boot cupboard, remember.
Hermione sighed. She knew Harry's occasionally shocking black humor masked a lot of pain and bitterness, but phone conferences were not the proper setting to talk to him seriously about it, so she decided not to rise to the bait. Well, from now on, Harry, just leave the television on MTV while you study. You can absorb the entirety of Muggle pop culture through osmosis. He laughed.
Oh, before I forget. Will you be back in London by the 31st? That's my birthday, and I'd like to do, well, something. I don't want a party really, but maybe me, you, Neville and Blaise could take in a movie or something. I'd love to. I'll forward the invitation to Blaise and Neville.
She hesitated.
I should tell you, your parents sent me an invitation to a birthday party for Jim at Potter Manor for the 31st. I haven't responded yet. Were you interested in going? Had you not wanted to do something that day, I might have considered it. I mean, he is in my house, so we do need to at least try to get along, and if I can make peace with Draco Malfoy, surely I can do it with Jim Potter. But I'd rather spend the day with you, and I'm sure Neville will feel the same.
Harry was pleased and immediately started counting the days to when he'd see his friends again. 2 July 1992, late the next afternoon, Harry locked and bolted the main door to his room. Then, he exited out the invisible magic door in his back wall and went down the invisible magic stairs, both of which had been installed just weeks before. For about the 100th time in the last year, he grinned infectiously at the possibilities of magic. Then he walked around to the front of the house and stopped short, his smile falling away. Petunia was in the front yard wearing a silly-looking broad-brimmed hat and armed with a pair of garden shears that she was using to brutally mutilate an innocent rose bush. For a second, Harry felt a pang of sadness. As much as he'd hated being the Dursleys' slave and whipping boy for so many years, he took justifiable pride in how well he'd maintained Petunia's award-winning flower garden, just as he took pride in how well he'd cooked meals for his 3 hateful relatives, elaborate, fancy meals which they'd all slurped down without even a single compliment. Briefly, he'd considered the idea of offering to cook meals downstairs on occasion, but only with the understanding that he'd be allowed to eat his fair share and sit at the table like a proper person. No more of this, cook beef Wellington for the Dursleys while living off burnt toast and tap water rubbish. He'd mentioned the idea to Hermione on the phone the day before, and she'd rather hotly explained to him about a Muggle concept called Stockholm Syndrome that caused kidnapping victims to feel a desire to please their captors. Petunia glanced up at him and made a face of undisguised loathing. Then she went back to Harry's poor roses and attacked them with renewed vigor. With the tiniest amount of regret for the roses, not their assailant, Harry walked past Petunia to the sidewalk and headed down the street. A few blocks away from 4 Privet Drive, Harry looked around to make sure no one was on the street watching him. Then he pulled out his wand and held it out in a thumbs-up gesture, just as Artie had demonstrated. Seconds later, he was startled by the sudden arrival of a bright red triple decker bus, the night bus. Amused by the bus's appearance and by the nervous introduction of one Stan Shunpike, apparently it was young Shunpike's first week on the job as bus conductor, Harry announced his destination as the Leaky Cauldron and then settled in for a quick, if mildly terrifying ride. Not long after, a somewhat nauseous Harry Potter stepped off the bus and into the Leaky Cauldron, making his way upstairs to room 13, which was a small but heavily warded meeting room that Artie Podmore's firm kept permanently rented out for private conferences such as this. Inside, Podmore and 2 other wizards were waiting for him.
Good afternoon, Harry.
Said Artie.
Any problems getting here?
None at all, Artie, thanks. Harry looked expectantly towards the other two men, both of whom seemed to be defined by how incredibly nondescript and average-looking they were.
Harry, let me introduce. Well, I suppose introduce isn't the right word. Harry, this is Mr. X and this is Mr. Y.
Harry crooked an eyebrow.
They are here under glamours and anonymity charms to conceal their identities, but both of them have sworn oaths to me that they are the individuals with whom the firm has contracted in this matter, as well as secrecy oaths, that they will not reveal the mere fact that you're studying occlumency to anyone else. Likewise, I have sworn an oath not to reveal either of their identities to you or anyone else. While their actions today are not illegal, they are sufficiently sketchy in the eyes of the ministry that neither wishes to use his real identity. I assure you that this is quite common where occlumency training is concerned.
He gestured towards each man in turn.
Mr. X is a 7th-level adept at both occlumency and legilimency. Mr. Y is a 5th-level occlumens and also a licensed and bonded obliviator who normally works for the ministry but is acting today in a freelance capacity. In just a minute, Mr. Y will use the first part of the memory lock charm on Mr. X and then leave the room, along with myself. Mr. X will then spend the next hour examining your mind and your memories with legilimency in order to determine the strength of your occlumency shields, and then he'll provide you with a course of mental exercises designed to improve those shields and to develop other psychic protections. During your session, you will also give Mr. X a password of some kind that will allow him to remember this session in the future. Even if you don't want him to ever remember this session, the nature of the spell requires that a password exist. It doesn't have to be anything complicated, but it should be something that won't come up in casual conversation. At the end of the session, Mr. Y will come back in and use the second part of the memory lock spell on Mr. X to complete the memory block.
Harry was rather impressed by the level of secrecy involved in this endeavor. Memory lock charm? I've never heard of that, Mr. Y explained in a slightly foreign accent.
The original versions of the memory charm and the false memory charm are both 300 years old, and they can both be overcome relatively easy through things like legilimency and remember-alls. The ministry banned all further private research into memory-altering charms, but later developed improved versions of the original two for official government use. You have to be licensed by the ministry to learn them, and you have to swear magical oaths limiting your ability to use them and making it nearly impossible for you to teach others who are not licensed. The memory lock charm cannot be broken by any known means except by knowing the password, and pursuant to the oath I swore when I learned it, I cannot use that charm against any other wizard or witch unless they consent or else pursuant to a judicial decree from the Wisengamot. Otherwise, the spell fails to complete itself. Mr. X here has already consented to obliviation after this session, but for your benefit, he'll repeat the oath before we start.
Harry blinked.
Does this sort of thing happen often? You'd be surprised,
said Mr. X in a silky voice.
In the wizarding world, it's quite common to learn something you shouldn't, and then have the memory erased for your own protection or that of others. The unspeakables are all well trained in self-obliviation for that purpose.
Harry shuddered a bit at that. Once again,